Hello, teacher friends, and welcome to today's presentation on teaching a unit on the human body systems. So today I'm going to teach you some tips, strategies, and a layout of how I teach the human body systems. And I'm hoping that this is going to help make something that is very big and overwhelming much easier for you to be able to teach with your students. So before I get started, a little bit about me. For those of you that don't know, my name is Kristen Muse. I'm from Teaching Muse. I have over 15 years experience teaching upper elementary science students. I have a master's degree in literacy. On top of my master's degree, I have 90 credits, most of that being in technology and science. I live at home with my husband, and we have a furry child named Samson. And in my free time, when I'm not teaching or creating presentations, I like to paint, take Samson for walks, and go out to dinner with my husband, who my husband had back surgery not too long ago, so we were finally able to go out to dinner last week, and I was so happy. It's been quite a few months before we have been able to go out to dinner. Okay, so you have a unit in front of you on the human body. Most of the time when you're teaching a unit like this, there are many different body systems that you are teaching, and it's not just an isolated body system. So when you have all of these body systems in front of you, it could be a little bit overwhelming. So why are we teaching about the human body? Well, I think a lot of this we can already understand why. It will build and promote well-being within ourselves and for our students. This is one of the most classic and perfect ways to be able to connect real life to science, because the human body is us. So students are able to learn a little bit more about themselves and what is going on inside of them to make us be able to live in day-to-day life. For those of you that are following the NGSS curriculum, this is obviously part of that. So it is very important to make sure that you are incorporating that into your curriculum somewhere. And one thing that I also think is important when you're teaching the human body, and this also goes along with NGSS and what they want students to know from this, is that we are comprised of different body systems. So we have the skeletal system, the muscular system, the circulatory system. We'll go into all of those in a few minutes. However, while these systems do have their own job and they function and they have things that they do on their own, they do have to work together in order to keep our body healthy. So being able to have the students understand what each body system does, but then also correlate that to how they're working together to make the human body productive and work as it should. So that is one of the goals that we want to make sure come out of our human body system. Okay, so as I said earlier, the human body is comprised of many different systems. There may be more than this list that you go over in your classroom, depending on what your district has laid out for you. But basically, we have about 10 systems here that typically we are going to introduce and review with our students. So as I said earlier, when you come across a curriculum that has all of these units together, a lot of times it can be overwhelming because you don't know where to start, you don't know what to do. I mean, there really is no right or wrong way to teach the body systems as long as you have your goals set in mind and you're relating it to the standards. You basically want to make sure with each body system that you are laying out the parts of the body system, what the job is of that body system, and how it works. So if the students know those three aspects of each body system, and then you start to integrate how the body systems are working with other body systems to do their job, you will be fine. If your district says that they want you to teach this body system unit in a certain order, by all means, you should be following what your district is telling you. They are the ones that are paying you. But I'm going to go into a little bit about how and why I teach this in a certain way. So when I begin, you may have noticed that on the other slide, body organization is not part of human body systems. However, our body is organized in a way where it will make up these systems. So when I begin my human body unit, I start with body organization. Typically, I will do this after we've learned about cells But again, that depends on your curriculum and how it's set up. So the students understand what a cell is, we understand how tiny it is, and we understand that our bodies are comprised of millions and millions of cells. So within the body organization, we first learn about the cell, and then we learned about specialized cells. So specialized cells are ones that are going to have a special job that they are doing. And these cells are typically found within the different body systems. Whether it's nerve cells, skin cells, bone cells, those would be different examples of specialized cells. So those specialized cells can combine to form tissue. That would be the next layer to the body organization. And then those tissues combine and they can form an organ, such as a heart, your stomach, your pancreas. Those are all the different organs. And then those organs will work together in some way, shape, or form, and they will combine to give us our organ systems. And that's where you get the different body systems, circulatory system, the skeletal system. So I like going over this first so that the students can understand how the body is organized and how what the different parts of that organizational system is. I think that's very important for the students to know, and then they can also understand how the different body parts are working together to create an organ system. So when teaching the units of the human body system, this is typically the order that I teach this in. So after we learn about body organization, my first unit, or the first body system that I tackle, is the skeletal system. I like to start with the skeletal system for a couple different reasons. First of all, I think the skeletal system is incredibly easy. We all understand that. I think for your students, we have a variety of learners in our classroom, struggling learners, higher learners. They all understand the basics of a skeletal system. They're all going to understand that it's made of bones. So I feel like that's a good place to start for the students to feel good about themselves, and also because it's going to build upon some of the other systems. So we start off with the skeletal system, but the skeletal system is like the framework for our body. The skeletal system can't do anything without the muscular system. So that's why I think that is a good system to then teach. Next, because you have those muscles that are connected to the bones that help the body move from one place to another. And then after we learn about the skeletal system and the muscular system, I dive into the digestive system, because when you're teaching about the muscular system, you're going to teach about 3 different muscles: the smooth muscle, the skeletal muscle, and then the cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle being found in your heart, the skeletal muscle being found connected to your bones, and then the smooth muscle are the types of muscles that work without us thinking. So the digestive system is comprised of a lot of those muscles, especially in our stomach, and within our intestines, to get that food moving and to get those nutrients into our body. The digestive system, I think, is a great segue. That typically for me will be a longer system, because there's a lot more to dive into in the digestive system. You have those body parts, and you really have that sequence and framework for how the food is traveling throughout our body. There's a lot of fun activities that you can use with the digestive system. So this typically will be a little bit of a longer system. The next system that I dive into is the circulatory system. And the reason why I do that is because when we're learning about the digestive system, the students will also learn about how the blood will carry the energy and the nutrients throughout different parts of our body. So I feel like that, again, is just a natural segue into that system. Next, I teach the respiratory system, because the students will learn that the blood carries oxygen to the cells, and then it takes away the carbon dioxide. And then that is all filtered through our lungs. The excretory system is how we get rid of waste. So again, I think that's a nice connection to the respiratory system, because as we're breathing in, we are then breathing out to release some of the waste of our body. And the excretory system just dives a little bit deeper into some of the waste that we excrete or get rid of through our body. Then we dive into the nervous system, and the nervous system, we know, is the control center for our entire body. It is comprised of the brain, the spinal cord, and the nerves. So we go over that. And then the endocrine system is the different hormones in your body. And that is also controlled by the nervous system. And then last but not least is the reproductive system, which is usually towards the end of the year, thankfully. And that is one of the last body systems that we teach. Now, I have a little note over here about the immune system and the integumentary system. So the immune system and the integumentary system, which is the hair, skin, and nails, those are shorter units. I don't dive as deep into those as I do with the other ones. Obviously, it is very important for students to know about the immune system and how we can protect ourselves and keep ourselves safe from germs and other things that can invade our body. And the integumentary system is also important because our skin is the largest organ, so we want to know how to care for that. But those are typically units where if I have a couple of days before a break or after a break before getting started, I will throw those in because typically for those two units, I usually need like maybe 3-ish days to go over it. Whereas the other units will be about a week, but there are some systems that I do spend a little bit more time on. So teaching the units, as I just said, the time taken to teach these units will vary. Most of them will be a week, maybe 2 weeks, depending on, it depends on the year. There's certain times where I may want to do different activities with the students, and then there's other years where maybe timing or other restraints, I can't do certain activities. So I would say each body system takes about a week or 2. And again, the things that I want my students to learn about each system, they need to know obviously what it is. I want them to know the parts, the jobs, how it works, and how they're working with the other systems. Some of them may not be working with every system, but a body system has to work with at least one. And I want them to see that connection of how the body is working together to make us functioning human beings. So how do we start a unit? A lot of times when we're teaching, as science teachers, we may get thrown into this depending if you are in an elementary school and now you're departmentalized. Others may have this knack. But a lot of times teachers struggle with starting out the unit. What are different ways to get started? So it depends on your class, I have to say. Each year, again, as I just said, with the different activities that I will use to go along with this, the way I start a unit will be different. For me, it depends on the class and the makeup of the class and what they know. So you may want to get a little bit of an idea of what they know by using something like a KWL chart. For those of you that don't know, a KWL chart is a 3-column chart. You have KWL, K standing for what they already know. The W is what you want to know. And then at the end of the unit, which a lot of times I forget to go back to the end. I don't know if there's any other teachers out there like me. But at the end of the unit, you're supposed to revisit the KWL chart and then go over what you learned. So by doing that K part, and then the K part will really allow you to know and to pre-assess what the students know about body systems or the body system that you are working on. So that's a great way to pre-assess and kind of get an idea of what type of background information the students are coming in with. I like to also hit on important vocabulary terms. Within each of these units, there's different parts and there's different terms that are going to go along with each of the scientific concepts. So I like to hit on those in the beginning. I feel like that really helps my struggling learners. It helps my learners that don't have a good English speaking background. And with that, I like to also provide pictures and illustrations. I'll go into more of that in a few minutes. For those of you that have a subscription through BrainPop, I'm lucky enough that my school provides us with one. I love the fact that they have very short videos that I can use with my students, and it will cover a variety of topics. So we'll go back to that in a second. There is Samson, where I thought I had this up. So with BrainPop, so in order to see these, you would have to log in. But if you just do the quick search if you look at the results from this quick search, you will see these are all of the videos that they have that go along with the human body. So what I like to do when I first start out is show them the one on body systems. But then each time we're learning about a different system, I like to show them the video that goes along with it. If you haven't had the ability to use BrainPop has videos that are about 5 minutes in length. And then there's usually different activities that go along with it. They always have some sort of a quiz, so you can use that to kind of assess what the students have learned. But they're really building this up to include even more activities. So a lot of times there'll also be graphic organizers, there'll be worksheets and all different things like that. I have a blog post on BrainPop that I can also share with you. I'm going to share this with you at the end as well. These are all of the links and some information about how I teach this unit. So I'll also be sharing this Google Doc with you at the end. Okay. Another site that I like, this is also paid, is Generation Genius. They have really great videos as well. That's something that you can look into. It is paid. So if you are lucky enough, I have a really great science chairperson that always will get these different video sites and different websites for us to be able to use. You know, he doesn't just focus on high school, he focuses, you know, really K-12 to make sure we're really building that science background. And then another way to start your unit is with some sort of a classroom demonstration. Now, the students may not understand how something is working or why it's happening, but it is a good way to engage your students and to kind of get their attention. So next, well, this isn't really next, but sometimes we will. I have these anchor charts that I made already in my classroom. So what I will do is this stuff here, these are blank so that we can then go over throughout the unit. We can label them together. And I also have posters that I hang up, and they look like this. So we have the respiratory system. This would go along with the vocabulary that I was talking to you about earlier. So for something like this, we have the respiratory system. I have my illustration, and then I have the definition up at the bottom. And I just have this for all of the terms that they're going to need to know. So trachea, the bronchi, all of these will give the students the term that they need to know, an illustration, and then the definition. And the great thing about this is that these will be hung around the classroom so that the students can reference this throughout the unit. You can also print these so that they're smaller and that they're all on one page so that the students can have these in their science notebooks, and they also can reference this at home. So those are the things that I like to have around the classroom that have to do with what we are learning about in that unit that the students are able to refer to. And I also think it makes your classroom look warm, and it gives it a good feeling for the students to come in, a nice welcoming feeling. So next, after we have started the unit and we did something to introduce this unit to the students, now we need to build knowledge through different science texts. If you have different texts that you have in your classroom, you can go ahead and use those. I have kind of designed my own that will hit on those areas that I want my students to know about. So these science texts will cover the different parts of the body system, what the job is of the body system, how it works, and then a lot of times at the end, we will talk about the other body systems that this will work with. So this is kind of a layout of what my science texts usually look like. For those of you that know me, I like to include literacy skills throughout because I think that it's very important to integrate those two areas together. So I'll have them do something like a Venn diagram that you can see here. And then we also have comprehension questions because we want to be able to assess what the students know and make sure that they understand what it is that we have just been reading. I also like to have check-in questions so that you're not waiting until the very end of what it is that they're reading to understand or to be able to assess if they understand what it is that they were doing. Whereas these check-in questions here kind of chunk that information, and then it's letting them build on that knowledge throughout the reading. So some of the science textbooks are also developed in the same way. I think that is a good strategy for the students to be able to use. Once they have that background knowledge, now we want to reinforce this information. So you want to be able to reinforce their understanding of the different parts. Can they identify those parts of the system? What is the system's job and how does it work? And with some systems, it's very sequential and the students really can get to know how it works. If you're thinking about a system like the digestive system, we're first eating, then it's going down the esophagus, into your stomach, small intestine, large intestine. So for the body systems like that, I think it's really easy for the students to be able to remember something like that. You also want to make sure that you're continually reinforcing how the body systems are working together. Other ways to reinforce all of this knowledge that they have are through demonstrations or different hands-on activities. So here I have the students where they used different household items and we made a replica of what the bone is made of. This was a STEM activity for the nervous system and talking about how the skull protects the brain and why that is so important. And then this was a classroom demonstration on what our blood is made up of and what's inside of it. Other ways to reinforce that I love, love, love are different graphic organizers. So I have a graphic organizer here. This would tell us about the circulatory system. I have them do one of these for each part of the circulatory system. So for the heart, the blood, and the blood vessels. But then again, they also need to make sure that they understand how the circulatory system is working with the other body systems. So they complete this note sheet so that they are able to show me the connections. And then sometimes I also have smaller ones. So for this one, this is how do the respiratory, digestive, and circulatory systems work together. So it's just taking a couple of those body systems. This is one where the circulatory system is filled out. And then I have the respiratory system. And I try to really just highlight the different parts of the system and then have them summarize what each part does. And sometimes I will combine. So in this one, you can see I combined the skeletal system and the muscular system. So I'm big on having them use the graphic organizers. I love having them color in the graphic organizers because there's so many studies out there that as the students are coloring in, it's another way for them to make connections to what they're doing, and it will deepen their comprehension of the body systems that they're learning about. I have some free video sources, and again, I'm going to provide you with a link to the Google Doc that has all of these linked. But these are some videos that I like to use to reinforce what each body system does. We have the kids' health videos. You can see on here, this is their main page. This is the one that I've linked to. Aside from the videos, there's other activities as well. But they have videos for all of these different human body systems. So you can click on lungs, and then how the lungs work. Again, these are short videos. They're usually about 5 to 7 minutes in length, but it's going over everything that you want the students to know. And I think that sometimes it's great for them to just see that, get that information in another way, because as we know, our students are all learning through video now. And then there's also articles, quizzes, activities, and a word find if you want the students to do that. The Amoeba Sisters have good videos as well. I like to use these. Here we go. And again, this is just going over the different human body systems, what they do, not too long in length. So it's something where you can show them and then you can have a discussion about it. Happy learning. So you have these links that you can check out, but most of them will have videos for the different body systems. So Crash Course is another one. I see that up here too. Crash Course is another one that goes into, these are a little bit longer. They're usually about 10 minutes in length, but I do like their videos for a variety of different science topics. Other ways to reinforce, you can have the students, have them complete different review activities. I like them to get on the look at different websites and have them be able to read and summarize what it is that they see on those websites, and then they will answer the questions here. So something like this is very guided for the students. You could also just put on the board, different questions that you want the students to answer, and then they can give you a short summary of it. Either by providing them with the links or have them look at the links on specific websites that you give them. Other sites that I really like to use to reinforce, Kids Health also, I just showed you with the video that they have those other activities, but Scholastic has something called Study Jams, where there are all different activities that go along with the body systems. So you can just click, go to the activity, and then it will show you, it'll give them some information, and then they have the vocabulary here too, which is great, but then they can test themselves. So this, again, these are all free websites. I'm going to show you one more. There's innerbody.org, and then there's also the Zygo Body, and those will both show you what our bodies look like for each body system. So right now, this is the muscular system. If you want to teach them about different muscles, a lot of this is a little bit higher than what the students need to know, but if you want them to see, okay, here are your abdominal muscles right here, they can just get a feel for where each of these are and what the body systems look like. And then Zygo Body is also similar to Inner Body, where it's showing those different body systems. You can layer them on top of one another or just look at one body system at a time. Other review activities that you can do with your students, you can do things like flip books, where they are telling you what each body system is and then laying out the different parts and then how it works. I think these are also really great if you're going to have a test or an assessment later on. The students can use this as like a study guide. And then when you are assessing this unit, I usually assess each body system as we're going along. You probably want to vary your assessments, but that is up to you, again, up to how your district works. Obviously, you can have something like tests and quizzes. I like to throw some projects in there. You can also have students just write an explanation on how, how does the circulatory system work with the other body systems. You can have a Google form check-in where you're just asking the students a couple questions. It's a very quick assessment. That way it doesn't have to take up the entire class time that you have with them. And then a wanted poster, I also think is a cute activity that I have my students do. I use this with the circulatory system. And I have, I like when they make these posters because then they look really cute hanging up. But because of COVID, I also had a digital component that they did this year. So they made digital posters instead. So I also have some free resources for you to be able to use in your classroom to get you started at different points in this, in your unit. So for teaching the integumentary system, there is a reading that is enclosed. I have a digital organizer, so those digital notes for the skeletal system. Homeostasis, that is how our body is keeping everything working as it should despite what is going on around it. So I have a reading and organizer for that, and then also muscular system notes. So I want to thank you for joining me today and taking the time to learn more about teaching the human body system unit. If you have any questions that I didn't cover or anything you would like me to go a little bit more into depth in, you can email me at kristen@teachingmuse.com. And if you would like to read more information about integrating literacy, science skills, the human body, you can check out my blog at teachingmuse.com. Or if you want any of the materials that I was showing you, you can always check out my store, which is Teaching Muse on Teachers. So I hope that this helped you, and I will see you soon.